Another American TESOL Presents Free Friday webinars. We're here every Friday. It's free. It's 30 minutes, and we do have a recording and a certificate. Today we're going to talk about mobile learning, but each week we talk about something different, sometimes related to technology and sometimes not. So you can find all the topics that are upcoming till May, and you can also find a certificate, and you can find how to log in, all of that great information, and the slides and the bookmarks if you go to bit.ly ELT links. And you can have that all lowercase and get the information. It's great to see familiar faces here. And we're going to talk about not just mobile learning or using cell phones or mobile devices with your students, but also, and these can be anything. They can be a cell phone, or it could be something like an iPad. I have my iPad mini here. Or it could be a tablet. But the idea today is we're going to talk about a type of learning, a type of way that students can learn, and it's active learning. And you can do this with regular lessons as well. It doesn't have to just be with mobile devices. And I really like this quote by John Holt, which is, learning is not the product of teaching, but it's the product of the activity of the learners. So it's important to ask ourselves within our classes, what are our students doing? What does it look like? Are they standing? Are they moving around? And a lot of these pictures you'll see are from my classes. So those are students that I've taught, and these were students that I taught last March, actually, in Slovenia. And I think that it's really important that when we teach, whether it be with mobile devices or whether it be with pencil and paper, that we get students to be active, out of their seats, interacting with the world around them, and get them exploring and playing. When you have students move around, you might think, wow, that's going to be a lot of chaos. But actually, it helps you with your classroom management. If students have to sit in a 45 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour at a desk, then they will get stressed out, and they will, their mood will change. They'll get more, if you have little kids, they'll get antsy, they'll get angry, and so there's a lot of stress associated with just being still and stagnant. And even us, if you sit down for a while and you're in a lecture or anything like that, you'll notice your mind starts to wander. So it's important that we get our students moving, because then they're happier, they think better. Research shows that it's better for creativity because it gets their mind juices flowing. It also helps them in real-world learning. If they're interacting with the world around them, if they're outside, if they're going from place to place, and they're doing things with the objects around them, then even if they're in the classroom and they're moving around and they're looking at a poster or they're writing on the board or something, that's better for them than them just sitting down with the textbook. It also encourages continuous learning. So in other words, that learning is beyond your classroom walls. So that's another really important point as well. And it's student-centered. If our students are walking around and they're learning, or moving around and learning, then they are the center, and you're not the center. They're not just listening to you, but they're doing things. And for language learners especially, it's really important that we get them walking around and that we get them interacting with each other. And a lot of times you can take something so simple like a conversation lesson, and you can just tell them to get up and to have the conversation in pairs. And then you can even time them, and you can say switch, and they can move around to another person. And just adding that element where they move around makes your class and makes their learning much better. So anytime you can make a lesson active, then it's very good to do that. And it doesn't take that much effort, actually. You can just have them stand up and do it. And sometimes it doesn't even take that much extra time for the lesson. The first time it may, but once your students get used to it, then it'll be much easier for them to move around. You'll get it to where it's something that becomes a ritual and they do it quickly and it takes just as much time as the regular lesson. So it's something that we should try and incorporate. With the mobile device, it's much easier. And the reason why is because even with a regular cell phone, let's say you don't have a smartphone, and I've taught refugees before, and they've had cell phones. They weren't smartphones, but they could do so much with them. And things that you can do is you can take a picture, you can create a video, you can record audio, and those three things, and text and write notes, those four things you can do with most regular cell phones. Pretty much all cell phones allow you to do that. So these are great ways to really interact and do things and have your students get up, stand up, and do a lot of different things as well. Now, if you do have smartphones, and a lot of our students do have smartphones, when I was in Slovenia and Croatia and I was working with students of all ages, a lot of them did have smartphones. They weren't iPads. We only had like one with an iPhone or an iPad, but a lot of them had Android devices. And so I'll share with you apps for that. But apps are really fantastic if you can use them. And one of the reasons why is because if you use apps, then they'll work offline. In other words, you won't need an internet connection. After they're downloaded, you can create stories, you can make filters for your videos, you can do so much, and you don't even have to be connected to the internet with a lot of apps. Not all apps, but a lot of them. So it's good. One of the first recommendations that I recommend is to mingle. This is a picture of square dancing, and that's the way mingling works. It's something that you can do even with regular lessons. So this doesn't only apply to mobile devices, but it's something that I do with mobile devices. I mingle with them. I also mingle in my class without technology as well. So what is mingle? Well, if you think of a square dance, you have a partner, you're moving around with that partner, you dance with them for a short little bit, maybe a minute or two, and then you switch partners and you do the same thing. And that's what I mean by mingling. So you have them do a short activity with a mobile device for a minute in pairs, and then you either ring a bell or you show a timer, and or you say switch, and they switch, and they know. And so the opportunities that you can to do this is one of my recommendations. You can do so much. Here's an idea of what an activity might be that you use. This is called App Mingle, and this is an activity that they came up with, and it's going to be in my book, Learning to Go. You can get a free sample of that already. And what does App Mingle do? Well, what it means is that if you do work with the apps, then you can have your students paired together. You set the timer. It could be 30 seconds, a minute. It's up to you. Student A, over here, number 27, he shows student B his favorite app. It could be Shatterpix, it could be Yakit, it could be Animoto, whatever his favorite one is. And he shows that to, it could even be a game like Angry Birds or Flappy Bird. And then for 30 seconds, he shows them, says, this is why I like it. And they're speaking English as well, so that's really good. And then the timer is up, and then it's student B's turn. They get 30 seconds to say, hey, well, this is my favorite app. And then when the timer stops again in 30 seconds, they switch partners and they do the same task all over again. So this is an idea of what you can do. There's a lot you can do with QR codes as well. So if you can download a QR code scanner, and that is pretty easy to do. You just search for QR code, and you'll find a lot of different scanners that are free. And when your students have this, it doesn't matter what kind they have, but if they have this, you can do a lot of moving activities with that as well. And if you just add text, then you don't need the internet. So that's something that you may not know, that if you just add text to it, so you can even do things like if they're looking for answers, then you can have it to where they will scan something instead. It could be maybe a poster you have, or you can even print out a bunch of these little tiny QR codes, black and white. You can put them around the room, and you can have them scan those instead of sitting in their desk and just looking for information. So that's a way to use QR codes. Here are a few free ones that you can download. This works for any device, Enigma and QuickMark. SparkQcode.com, that's how you can make them very easily. That is on your browser, so you can do it on the web. That's really neat. Visual Lead and Unitag Live, you can make beautiful ones with a picture like I have here with Roscoe, and they work. So you may want to try that. It's really cool and really nice. And I believe with Unitag Live, if you decide to switch the URL, you can, and it just updates it. So that's a really cool option, because I'm always trying to change websites and stuff. So that could be something that you test out. These are free, by the way. So if you do download any of the apps in this presentation and they're not free, look for the light version, then add light in your search, and then that'll take you to the free version. So there are free versions, and then there's also ones that you can pay for, but the ones that I show you are all free. You just have to look for the free version, which is usually called Light. I don't know what it's called in other languages, though. QR Code Wiz, that you can make colored ones, and QRity. QRity, the reason why I put it up there is if you have an iPad or an iPad mini, it allows you to do two things. It allows you to make QR codes on your mobile device, and it also allows you to scan. There aren't a lot of apps that allow you to do that. That's why I love QRity. So if you have iPad, then it's something to consider. You can integrate with Realia, and that's what I recommend. So don't just have a QR code and then have it to where they do very simple things. Like, for example, I see a lot of teachers, and they'll have a question, and then they'll have the answer as a QR code. And what's a better idea is to just take the QR codes, and if you give student A the question, give student B the answer, make sure there's lots of questions and answers and they're all switched up, and have them look for each other. They're seeking out a question and answer, and something very simple like that gets them out of their chairs, they're moving, and they have to tell each other the question and answer, they're talking. So that makes it a much better activity. When you put QR codes on objects and they can scan, that's really great too. A lot of times we see a diagram and the student writes down the body parts, right? But if they have a QR code, and remember, if you just have text and they all have the app downloaded, you don't need the internet. So if you put it around an object and they get up and they scan it, then that's much better than if they're sitting and they're just doing a worksheet where they're naming the body parts. They're going to remember this a lot more because they're interacting, moving around. If you do have internet access, you can attach it to games. You can attach it to a video. So if they were to scan the teeth, they could see a video about the teeth and how to take care of them. Maybe they scan up here and they get to play a game that involves the brain. So there's so many different things you can do with a QR code. And that's what I suggest. Put it with different multimedia. Just don't use text unless you don't have any other option because you don't have the internet. Then of course use text. That's fine. But if you have access to the internet, try different things. Put a game. Put a video. Put a poll. You can have a poll. You can have. There's so many different ways that you can get them to interact. So we're going to look at different ways that you can do with different apps. There's photography. So you can take a picture, and you don't need an app for that. Pretty much every cell phone nowadays, if they've gotten it recently, has where they can take pictures. If you can have an app, your students love them, and they use them a lot. So you may want to use some of these. Instagram is one of my favorite ones. You have to be 13 years old to use it. Your students love it. They have accounts. Trust me, a lot of them do. They love it. It works for iOS. It works for Android. But the great thing about Instagram is that you can make short 15-second videos as well. So it's great for doing both. There's Be Funky, there's Pick Collage, and I'll show you what a lot of these do. You have access to the slides. Don't worry if you missed any of these apps. These presentations are only 30 minutes, so they tend to go a little fast. So one of the things you can do with photos is you can have weekly photo challenges. And what I mean by this is that you can have your students, it looks a lot like this. So you just have it to where they're up and they say, I always say mission. It is homework, but I don't ever say homework. Homework is a terrible word. And it's not the act of giving homework. It's that as soon as your students hear it, their reaction is like, oh no, I'm not. They already closed their mind. They don't want to do it. So instead I say, this is your mission, and this is how many points it's worth. Or this is your challenge, and this is how many points it's worth. And when you say mission and challenge, they associate that with superheroes having a mission, or they associate it with games. A lot of them play games, and they see challenges and missions as part of the words for games. So this is something you can do. So it'll be something like this: snap a photo of graffiti you consider art, explain why. So it's something that simple. And then they have the points. If they add it to their blog, it's even more points, if they have a blog. You can do another mission. Here's if you're teaching science. Snap photos of 5 substances in your surroundings, post their chemical formulas. Let's say you're teaching math. Snap a photo that shows a fraction, a real life fraction, like eating pizza or something. So these are different things that you can have them do, whatever your subject is. You can get ideas from InstaCC. InstaCC, it allows you to put Instagram on your calendar, make Instagram calendars with your pictures, and also challenges. Now, if you do have Instagram, I recommend having a class account. Your parents will actually follow this. Now, a lot of this I get from my partner. He teaches 178 11 to 12-year-olds. And his parents respond, and they look at the Instagram account. They see what the students are doing in class. He takes videos, snapshots of it, and they really interact with it. They love it. And when he takes trips, he's gone to, for example, we went to DC for the BAMIs, and we went to New York, and he had to miss the Fridays. So what he did is he would take pictures from, he teaches bilingual education, so he does teach language learners, but what he does is he takes pictures, and then he, like a delta, because he teaches geography, and they learn that, they respond to it. So it's a great way to teach your students different types of vocabulary. But then they can take pictures of the vocabulary in their surroundings, and then you can post that as well. You can make different types of collages, magazines, newspapers, flyers, calendars, all kinds of stuff, and you can do it without internet connection. And the way you do that is by downloading these apps. So Pick Collage is probably the best one if you work with Android and iOS, because it's for both. Doodle, Frame Artist, and Image Chef are only for iPad, iPhone, iPod. When you have, you can also use ThingLink and Buncee. Those are great. They make interactive pictures. You can take a picture, and you can, with Buncee, you can even draw on it. So I love that. All of these are free, by the way. They are iOS apps, but they do allow you to do a lot with your images. You can add links to them. You can add a video. You can do a lot of things with them. Plus, ThingLink and Buncee have browser tools. So not only is it an app, but it's also, you can use it online, which I think is great. So that way your students, if some have laptops, some have a mobile device, which is often the case, then you can have them use those tools, and everybody can do it. there are different types of collage activities you can do. Here's a few examples again. Make it to your subject, whatever you teach. You can use these ideas. For example, with a collage, they take a bunch of pictures and they show you those pictures. So you can have them take a bunch of pictures of an animal in its habitat, and then under each one, under the caption, because usually when you take a picture and you upload it to these apps, you get an area where you can include text. So in the text is where they describe. That's where they practice their writing. So they can describe what they observe. So if they take 10 pictures of, for example, my pug running around outside, then, I could say, Roscoe, he really likes to eat grass. He does. I don't know why. It's weird. He he doesn't like the rain. I mean, there's so many things. If it's a spider, let's say they're doing a bug or something, they can say, oh, the spider, his web was interrupted by the rain, it broke, but he rebuilt it on day 2. So they can do a lot of observations like that. They can take sections of an object, so like a painting or anything like that, and then they can put in the collage the sections, like a puzzle almost, and then they can put text clues and their peers can guess it. They can be photojournalists and they can describe an event they witnessed. Maybe they witnessed, I don't know, a wreck or something like that. Well, hopefully they don't. But they can do a lot of different things. Maybe a festival. They went to a festival. They can take pictures of it and they can describe what they saw or what they did. Maybe they went to an amusement park. They can do that. You can have things like digital scrapbooks. They can have a nature book, a rock collection, where they take pictures and moments of their blogs. Bug identification, plant identification. They can do all of this. You can use an app like Book Creator Lite. Now, Book Creator Lite is iOS. It's free, but the people who made Book Creator Lite emailed me 2-3 days ago, and they're making one for Android. So in a month, you'll be able to use Book Creator for Android. Book Creator is the easiest way to create multimedia presentations and publish to the iStore. You don't have to publish it, but your kids can make books. You can make one class book, and they can all add their pictures to that. So that's an easy way that they can do this. You can include music, video, images, audio, and if you teach learning disabilities, they have it to where it'll read the text aloud to different types of students as well. It has a lot of friendly things built in. It's the best tool in my opinion. I love it. It's one of my favorite tools, and they have a free version. You can use something like Comics Head Lite, and work with comics. Comics are fantastic. They really help students learn. They're brain-friendly, visually pleasing, and your students love to use them. So you can get them to write. You can get them to take pictures. Comics Head Lite is for iOS and Android. They can create a comic, for example, about a sibling. They can picture themselves as a hero for the day, everyday hero. What did they do? They can show a picture of them walking someone. I mean, opening the door. I mean, because those are heroic acts. So there's so many different things you can have them do. Excuse me 1 second. My allergies are acting up, so if I sneeze, I'm sorry. You can... Sorry. I knew that was going to happen. You can have them do field observations. You can have students be paired or grouped, and then you can geotag a lot. So if you use they can use their devices to observe something. They can observe acid rain. They can observe the clouds. They make a hypothesis first. They try and guess what they're going to notice, what they're going to see, and then they take notes. They can even geotag it, the location. We do this with fossil hunting. In Texas, we have a lot of areas you fossil hunt. We call a paleontologist. They'll do it for free. They're our guest speaker, and they take us to a field where they have Texas hearts. These are very famous fossils any kids can get and see. And then they can take the picture, but now with their mobile device, they can geotag it. You have to be careful with geotagging. You don't want them to be geotagging at their homes and everything like that, because you want to protect your students. But when they're doing field observations, when they're doing research, It's good to have them geotagged so they know the location, so they can go back if they ever include it. If you're doing this for field research, if you're doing this with adult students, university students, and they're going to do this as a journal, they're going to include this in a journal, then it's good to geotag and things like that for their findings. One of the best apps to do this with is Edgy Clipper. Edgy Clipper is fantastic. It's free. And now the iPad version has where your students can have audio and video commentary. So whatever they observe, they make like a little blog post here. It looks like a blog post. They have the pictures. They can even add links because it lets them click at links. So it does everything. I love this app. It's absolutely fantastic. It's for iPad right now and iOS. I think only the iPad allows the video and the audio. They don't have to have video. They can do audio as well. You can do things like send them on scavenger hunts. So you can pair or group them. You can give them a list of items and then they have to find it. I usually do this with verbs or adjectives. Soft, hard. And this is an activity I do for the summer camps because we have good summers here so they can go outside and they have to take a picture. The good thing about this is a lot of times you collect these things. You collect, you have students collecting bags and stuff. With a mobile device, if they take the picture and they match it to the item, then you don't disturb the nature. So it's great because then you leave the nature as it is, and also you make it to where the plants can keep growing. So it's good to do this as on a mobile device. You can easily do this with Scavenger Hunt. That's a free app, so you can do this with Scavenger Hunt with friends, which is a great tool for that. You can do things like treasure hunts. This is classtools.net. You can just go there. They have a million different types of fantastic activities. And the great thing is that Peggy George, who is in the chat, makes links to all of these. So you can find the links later as well, but with the slides, and I'll share that. But Peggy makes it to where you can just copy and paste the chat, and you'll find these links as well. You can have active learning through video. So a lot of us have had our students create video with flip cams, and you can do the same thing with the mobile device. It's not different, really. A lot of teachers think it's so different from a flip cam, but it really isn't. You can even use a flip cam for these activities. So if you don't have mobile devices or your students don't, but they have a digital camera, it'll work unless you use an app. And I do recommend using apps because they're wonderful. So here's a few ways that they can do this. They could do something like a tutorial. They can do, like, for example, show us in 2 minutes how to cook something, your favorite recipe, how to cook your mom's favorite recipe. They could do something where they show you how to tie your shoelace because there's so many students that don't know how to tie their shoelace. They could do different things like that. If you work with different cultures, which I've had different types of cultures inside my classes, then I get them to do something cultural relevant, like what is a tradition that you practice, and they get to choose that tradition as long as it shows something about their culture. So we've had in the past how to make tea. A student gave a lesson on how to make kimchi. Another student gave how to play the guitar. So they had different things like that. You can do silent film, stop motion. There's so many things you can do, and they move around. So that's the awesome part. I have created a storyboard for this. You can go to bit.ly, clay storyboard. You can edit it, and you can use it with any type of video project. Just edit it the way that you want to. It's free. I've put it up there. It's on a Google Doc, so you can use it. Augmented Reality, that is something that if you have access to, it's really cool. What it does is you take whatever it is in your environment and it puts a virtual element to it. So you see things, but you see it in your environment. It is really cool. I've done this with stars. I love my star app where I put it up and in the sky, see the constellation is really cool. Well, teachers have created an app called EcoBugs. So what it is a little bug will go in place. You have to have these little place things for the bug to appear on their phone. And they have hundreds of lessons for free with EcoBugs. So you can go to EcoBugs and you can download the app and you can have access to all these free lesson plans for literature, science, math, English language learners, everything. A few tips when you do have, so those are a few ideas. There's hundreds and thousands more. I will give you a link to survival tips for teaching mobile devices, and then you can go find a lot more activities, or even to the slide presentations. I have about 200 now, and a lot have more ideas. So a few tips. When you are moving around and you're working with a mobile device, you may want to use a plastic bag. They can still touch and use it, but this way, if they're working in nature, you don't want them to get it dirty, so it works well. So that's something that they can do and use it as well. You can have them, when you're giving them tasks, just not try to use different senses with it. So looking, listening, record sounds. They can, where they speak as well. They can even do where they move. There's a lot of gesture-based apps now. I'll show you some free ones that are really cool. So you want to get them to use you want them to practice speaking, listening, reading, and writing as well. So think about that when you're planning these activities. Here's some more recommended apps. I'll share with you the slides at the end, so don't worry if you missed that, but we're going to wrap up already. So what is the future? Well, mobile device is getting very active, and there's so much out there that you're going to be able to do. And the future is that, for example, gesture-based apps, and you can use this with an app called CamMe app. And what it does is you set your phone or your mobile somewhere, and all you have to do is move your hand. There's somewhere you just wink, and it'll take the picture. You don't even have to have your phone. You don't have to. Jake and I took a bunch of pictures like this. We just used our hand. It was great. It's really cool. You should try it. It's free. And this is the future. Augmented reality, where you can see they're going to do more with augmented reality. Your kids can use Erasmus, and they can create their own augmented reality. But it's not that great. So I didn't share it because it's hard. It's a little difficult to do. There's a lot of different face motion app as well. You can play a game, and you just play with your face. You don't touch anything. You just play with your face. It's really cool. And then wearable technologies. So right now, some of you may have those little bands to help you with fitness. Well, these are connected to your mobile devices as well. So it stores information. It stores things like how many steps you made, what you ate, everything like that. And so there's going to be more where you can wear it, and it'll work with your device as well. In fact, they even have one for Roscoe. So dogs can, and it'll automatically tweet for them. I'm sitting in the grass. It's very strange. There's so much that technology can do these days. The most important thing to remember, and once again, is don't focus on the mobile learning so much. Focus on active learning. Get your students out, get them active, whether they use a computer, whether they use a digital camera, whether they use a pen or paper or the textbook. Find a way to get them out of their chairs, moving around and interacting and doing things instead of just sitting there. It'll really improve your classroom. You'll have fun. That's the other thing as well. When you go and you're moving around and you're up and about, it's better for your health. It actually will keep your weight down. So if you're a teacher and you have teachers, if you wear comfortable shoes so you're more inspired. I always take heels, but then when I get in the classroom, I take out my tennis shoes or my clogs or something, and then this is the way that I move around. And a teacher trainer taught me this. He said, take a pair of tennis shoes or comfortable shoes. He's like, no teacher should have weight problems. You should be moving around constantly. So that's something that I try to do in my classroom. I try to move around a lot. It really helps your students. It really makes it more interactive and engaging. So if you can do this at least 5 or 10 minutes, get them to get up and moving every single class, then that's absolutely fantastic. They're going to remember more as well. A lot of it, if you learn TPR, then you'll find that as well. So I'm going to go ahead. Peggy has even included where you can find all this information on the survival tips, mlearning.com. Except my name is spelled wrong, so sorry, Peggy. It doesn't have an extra E. But we'll put that in. And thank you so much. You can work with my course. I'm teaching a mobile learning course right now. We're going to open up registration, so you can find all that on my blog. And you can also find all the slides and everything like that. So thank you so much for attending. And if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat box. I'm going to end the recording so that way we can have a short recording.